We're still here at RSAC 2025. I'm Doug White with Security Weekly. Ron Howard's going to speak in like an hour, I think, next door, and there's people coming in, so it's been getting hot. I'm here with Chris Hickman from Keyfactor.
Hi, Doug.
And hi. And Chris is the Chief Security Officer at Keyfactor and was a leading provider of secure digital identity management solutions for that company, and that's what they do. And as a member of the senior management team, Chris is responsible for establishing and maintaining Keyfactor's leadership position as a world-class tech organization with deep security industry expertise. He leads client success initiatives, helps integrate the voice of customers directly into Keyfactor's platform and their capability set. That was pretty good.
That sounds sounds like my day-to-day.
Yeah, so I mean, we were talking about like travel and all this kind of, so that's what you're doing with this customer success team, and you're going around all over the place?
It's not so much customer success directly, but it's really taking what our customers need for their next challenges around cybersecurity, and making sure that we are reflecting that correctly in our industry and across our products.
Okay. So primarily what I know you wanted to talk about was post-quantum computing and the implications of that. And I've certainly been following that. I mean, I love technology for one thing, and I love weird technology even better.
Yeah.
And so this was a thing that started evolving a few years ago, and some fairly forward-thinking people got in there and said, that if this came about, and it's rare actually to see that kind of forward thinking. It was like, well, this could happen. Usually people are like, yeah, we'll worry about it when it gets here. Yeah. But NIST started worrying about it well in advance.
Yeah. About 15 years ago, they really started to recognize there's a problem on the horizon.
Yeah.
And started to look for a solution to that problem, which was a new type of cryptography to protect data against quantum computers.
So, I mean, right now, if I'm, say, a mid-size.
Yep.
How worried should I be about that?
I mean, I think everybody needs to be worried, to be very honest with you, and that's not to be sensational in what's going on. I like to look at it from two different vectors, right? The first one is there's this new emerging risk that's coming around in a quantum computer. And while a quantum computer can not do a lot of things, there's a few things that it's really good at, and one of the things it's really good at is factoring numbers, which is what our cryptography today is based off of. The other thing that we should probably take into account, and this makes it as much a today problem as anything, is people are stealing the data to decrypt it later. So this notion of harvest now to decrypt later. Yep. And organizations are having data stolen and stored for it to be decrypted later. In addition to that, I'll add the element that simply says, we've had our current cryptographic standards for almost 30 years now. It's time for this evolution of cryptography to take place. Not a lot of things in this business have lasted for as long as some of our crypto standards, and it's a good time for organizations to take a step back and say, okay, you know what, I need to do a better job protecting my data. And the combination of all of those things are really making this a fundamental shift towards starting to adopt some of these new cryptographic standards.
What do you think about like the time horizon? I mean, I really like what you said about this harvest now, decrypt later, because I wonder what the time horizon's like on that kind of stuff. I mean, that legacy data is going to be floating around out there for a long, long time, because even no matter what we do, somebody's still going to have it on a hard drive somewhere.
Absolutely, and I mean, different data has different shelf life, if you will, right, and different relevance over a period of time. One of the things that organizations really need to consider is what is their long life data, right, and how best to protect it. One can assume that eventually that data will be able to be decrypted. What the latest standards that we've seen come out from NIST and their latest guidance is that we should no longer be using things like the RSA protocol and ECC algorithms past 2030.
Okay.
So the timeline is drawn, if you will, from a suggestion standpoint. As a matter of fact, they've said even if you have to go a little bit longer, you really can't use it beyond 2035. And that's sort of a standard now, because if we think about what's involved in changing that cryptography, it's a very significant change that needs to happen now in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, the technology's not getting there tomorrow, but pretty soon.
Some of it is.
Well, I mean, it's there. I mean, in terms of it being mainstream and people being able to run down to Best Buy and buy a quantum decryptor, kind of thing. It's not here today, but it is coming
I don't know
soon.
if that day will ever come, to be honest with you. But you'll be able to lease space over. You can do this today. Lease space on a quantum computer in a cloud environment, or you can go and buy one from a specialized vendor.
Well, yeah, I mean, you may never be buying a physical thing, but you may be able to buy that space
Yeah.
to do what you want. And I mean, the evolution of like criminal behavior, where we literally have criminal organizations selling access and like ransomware as a service and all these kind of things. It's
Absolutely.
like, I'm sure somebody's going to be selling, you can use our quantum computer for anything you want.
And the algorithms that are needed to sort of, if you will, break the current what we're calling classical cryptography have been published for a number of years through a mechanism called Shor's algorithm. So it's a known way to do it. All we're waiting for is a big enough quantum computer to be able to do it.
Yeah, and then that's just going to break all of a sudden. I just think one
If
day,
if it hasn't already.
maybe.
We don't
I
know.
think any time somebody's going to announce, guess what?
Yeah.
We've now got
Or,
the capability.
or honestly, the scarier scenario is that they do it and don't announce. So if it's a nation state or something like that, they're probably not going to publish their work.
Absolutely, and not immediately.
Yeah.
And so until it becomes obvious that they're doing that, because they could literally be breaking every secret on Earth.
Yeah.
And why would you? I mean, now you're into like World War II crypto, right? Where it's like, we don't want to block this attack because then they'll know we broke the crypto, and so we're going to hold off.
It's the whole Enigma story over again.
Yeah, and Purple was another one, the Purple
Yep.
algorithm of the Japanese submarines and all that, and they would just let the attack go through because they don't want them to realize that
Indeed.
that's a creepy situation.
Yep.
But we're there again. I mean,
Yep.
with this kind of crypto. So, as this does start developing, what are some of the mistakes that like companies are making now to prepare for this? Because I'm telling you right now, I talk to a lot of companies,
Yep.
and I can hear it already in my head. They're like, look, I know out there somewhere we got to worry, but and then when it gets here, they'll be like, oh, because they weren't going to know it. So what are some of the big mistakes that they're making right now?
So the big mistakes are exactly that. Not doing anything. To be honest with you, this is a long road. It's going to take years for organizations to be able to practically put a program in place. But it sort of starts with figuring out what we've already got. So the way I like to frame it, right, we've always dealt with cryptography in our organizations as kind of an RFP checkbox, right? Do you support this? Do you support that? Yes, no, and then just forget about it. Right? And the problem is now we've built almost 25 to 30 years of technical debt around cryptography, and we just don't know where everything is. We need to turn the lights on in the room and start to find all of this so we at least know what we can map out for a migration plan. You can't manage and migrate things that you don't even have a clue are in your environment.
I agree.
And that has to happen before you can even take the first step of doing that migration. So, I think the mistake that people are, biggest mistake to answer your question is they're not doing the things that they can be doing today to prepare themselves for that future step that they're going to need to take and setting themselves up to be successful and to be agile with cryptography going forward.
I mean, is that almost like a crypto data flow diagram? I mean, one of the things...
It's a discovery mechanism.
Yeah, it's the same kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, one thing we always told people is you have to know where your data is.
Absolutely.
And where it goes.
Yeah.
And who can touch it.
Yeah.
And as you add crypto to that, you're going to also need to know who can decrypt it, who can get to it via crypto, and all these kind of pieces.
And I mean, if you think about where cryptography is in our organizations, it's in applications, it's in hardware, it's in software, it's on our network, it's everywhere. It's pervasive. Like we've constantly said, encrypt the data as it moves, right? We've taken that methodology and moved it to our cloud providers, and we've moved it, everywhere our data is, our mobile finds, so on and so forth.
Interconnected.
And we have to find all of that because we can't just upgrade one bit and leave the others. It actually needs to be done in a complete ecosystem type of way.
And that's a tough sell, right, in production, because in dev, it's not so bad. I mean, in dev, I can go, oh yeah, I'll upgrade my VPN, I'm good. But in production, I've got VPNs going all over the place to different clouds, and everything depends on all those connections. And if I take one down, everything stops.
And further your VPN example, you need to know what support devices have to do that connection in the first place, right? So if you're going to use post-quantum cryptography with a VPN, you got to know that all your endpoints are capable of launching a client that are capable of doing that type of cryptography, so on and so forth. So it's very in-depth for organizations to even start to frame the problem and then decide what priority they need to give to what data and what data sets and what data flows in order to mitigate their highest value assets first.
Yep.
And then, take the rest and move down it from a risk-based
And
perspective.
then I think that ends up resulting in a kind of, we've got that lab over there where we've just had to isolate that because the legacy equipment in there will never support this. I mean, we just cannot possibly. I mean, just like when you had an old mainframe or a mini computer or something, and we put it down in the basement and said, okay, because I've set those networks up. And I'm like, look, nobody gets near this thing.
And you know what? They still exist, right? I mean, there's lots of mainframes that still exist, and can they run post-quantum cryptography? If not, how am I going to deal with that some way? So there's so many moving parts, and that's why I say, plan now, don't panic now. It's not the time to panic, but it is the time to plan, understand what the size of the problem is for your organization, and so that you can have the right plan prior to the panic moment being here.
Do you think they're doing that? I mean,
we're
so
starting.
That is happening.
We're definitely seeing that. Some industries are moving faster than others, but the industries that are going are definitely making the move now.
Okay, that makes. I mean, I know when the NIST contest came out.
Yeah.
I was just like, I guess it was like very nerdy, but I was like, I'm so happy to see this because it was really one of the first times I truly felt like somebody actually proactively addressed this issue. You never see that.
Absolutely.
It's usually like after it starts becoming a huge issue, somebody comes in and does it.
Yep.
Do you think that in the infrastructure world, so now my experience has always been that when you get into that ICS world, they're always behind because their equipment was designed to last for 60, 80 years and upgrading it is really difficult. I mean, is that like a huge focus that we need to be on?
It is, and it's going to require different methods of mitigation. You can't, no company out there is going to turn around and say, I'm going to replace everything, overnight, start fresh with a new, network and and hardware and so on and so forth. But the reality is that you're going to have to take multiple different approaches and be able to stay agile. And I think one of the key pieces here, right, is building agility into your next generation of cryptography. So that, because there's certain things we don't know about this post-quantum world, right? Like, we don't have a quantum computer today that can break the traditional algorithms.
Right.
We also don't have a quantum computer that can break the new set of algorithms.
Right.
What happens if one of those suddenly comes into question? How do we continue to be agile across this space? So let's build something now that will continue to last through the next iterations and generations and allow people to continue to be successful and just manage cryptography as a critical pillar of a business versus just sort of a thing the security team does.
Do you think that's going to look like the original crypto stuff? Because when we first started doing crypto, I was working on systems that had no crypto. I mean, it was like no such thing as crypto, and people were like, make the password something other than root, you're probably fine. and a couple of years later, you were screwed. and people were talking about, because I remember those early conversations and when people started saying, don't use Telnet. Use SSH, and I'm like, okay, I guess I better learn something about this because I never took crypto in school because it didn't exist. I mean, it did in some places, but not where I went. And so, do you think that's going to follow a similar pattern as it comes out?
I think honestly, yes and no. Yes, it will on one level, and no, it won't on another. Again, by having that visibility, by having that awareness, by sort of taking that 30 years of cryptographic debt and getting visibility on it, I'm hoping we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. But we're still going to rely on our vendors to build cryptography into their applications and hardware and so on and so forth. And we're going to rely on their implementations. But we're moving very quickly towards a trust but verify at each step. Where I think before we've just trusted, now we're also going to continue to verify.
So we kind of don't trust.
We don't trust as much because by trusting too much.
I trust you, but I'm going to check your references.
Exactly.
No, I think that makes sense. I do think that, like you said earlier, there's a sort of coming storm of the early going where, we're going to find holes in this that we didn't know about. Because nothing's perfect, and as it gets developed, it's going to become a problem. So I'm sure you'd like to say how Keyfactor is really focusing on this.
Yeah, so I mean, at Keyfactor, we have a series of products that are already post-quantum enabled. So in particular, we have a product that issues asymmetric or PKI certs called EJBCA that already has adopted the NIST standards for post-quantum cryptography. So customers who need to move early can do so in a standardized way. We have an orchestration platform that brings automation orchestration so that you can deploy those in a human touch way, right? So we can automate all that. And that brings the crypto agility into play as well. That also has a discovery component and a risk analysis program. So we can sort of take a look at, hey, these certs are more risky now, or these certs are going to be riskier at this point in time. We can feed that engine with latest and greatest intelligence.
I think I even want that at my house.
Yeah, I mean,
I've got enough gadgets at my house that are using crypto that I'm like, this could be a problem if my VCR is getting compromised.
And then we also have higher level, if you will, applications for helping organizations do signing and things of the sort. And then downstream, we also have a group that looks after our Guardian or our Bouncy Castle stack, which is a cryptographic library. So if you need to build a new application or you need to add post-quantum cryptography into your application, we have a stack that's available for that
really
as well.
Cool. Well, Chris, thank you for joining us here at
Thank
RSAC.
you for having me.
If you want to find out more about this, you can go to securityweekly.com/keyfactorrsac, where we got a nice landing page for you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and other than that, it's a little warm, but you know, that's the way it goes.
We're not freezing, so it's good.
All right, thank you so much.
Great, thank you.